Hello, Mr. Pepperell here, and in this video I'm going to talk to you a little bit about electrical charges and static electricity. So, we've all seen this sort of thing before, okay? When you rub a balloon on your hair, you can generate an attraction between your hair and the balloon, and they'll stick together, or you can stick the balloon to the wall. But what is it that's actually causing this attraction? Okay, the answer to that is static electricity. So, by rubbing two different insulating materials together, and by insulating I mean ones that don't conduct electricity, the electrons of the atoms of one material can be rubbed off and transferred to the other material. Check out my other little video called Inside an Atom if you want some more details on this. Okay. Now, some materials are more likely to lose electrons, and some are more likely to gain them. Okay, and you can actually see which material is which by looking at this thing here called the triboelectric series. Now, you don't actually have to know this for your exam, but I think it makes it a little bit easier to understand it, okay? Because materials up here near the top of the triboelectric series, so things like air, your body, glass, nylon, wool, okay, they're much more likely, if you rub them against another insulator, to lose an electron. Of course, because they've lost an electron, that means their overall charge is positive. Whereas stuff down here at the bottom of the triboelectric series, okay, so stuff like polyethylene or polythene, vinyl, silicon, Teflon, they're much more likely to gain electrons, which means they're going to get an overall negative charge. Okay, this process is actually called charging by friction. So by rubbing an insulator against another insulator, electrons are transferred, and therefore the insulator actually becomes charged. Okay. Contrary to what you might think, it doesn't actually matter how hard you rub it. It's just the fact that by rubbing the two things together, you increase the amount of contact between the materials. So, as an example of this, if I rubbed a plastic polythene rod there with a wool cloth, so I've got a polythene rod and I've got a wool cloth here. If I rub those together, electrons are going to be transferred between the two, okay? And the electrons are actually going to be transferred from the wool, which is obviously up here, okay, on the triboelectric series, onto the polythene, which is down here on the triboelectric series, okay? So because the polythene has gained negative electrons, it's going to become negatively charged, okay, because it's gaining the negatively charged electrons. Because the wool is losing the negatively charged electrons, it starts to become positively charged. So you can see that these two insulators are becoming charged just by rubbing them together and transferring electrons between the two. Now, we can investigate the charge of an object based on the way that electrical charges interact. For example, if I take two balloons, both of which are negatively charged because they're made of rubber, and that tends to become negatively charged when you rub with another insulator, okay, and I hold them near each other, what are those two balloons going to start to do? They will start to move away from each other, okay, they'll get pushed apart, and that's because like charges, they've both got these negative charges all over them, and like charges repel each other, okay. But if, for example, I hold a negatively charged balloon, so this balloon here has got these negative charges. If I hold that negatively charged balloon close to this positively charged paper there, you can see that the bits of paper will fly up and stick onto the balloon, and that's because they're oppositely charged, and opposite charges attract, okay? So to sort of sum that up, basically, we can build up a static charge on an insulator by rubbing it with another insulator, which results in the transfer of electrons. And we know which charge an object has because we know that like charges repel, so positive will repel positive, negative will repel negative, and opposite charges will attract. So that is static and electrical charges. Any problems with that at all, just tweet me at Mr_Pepperell and I'll get back to you ASAP. Thanks for stopping by.